guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. Why is trapping men still legal? And what do I mean by trapping them? I mean the fact that a woman can lie that she's taking protection. A guy goes in and believing her, and she ends up getting pregnant. And he's still on the ropes for child support. He's still in trouble with the law, and you know, it's his fault. Why is it his fault? Because he should have known better. He has to make sure, he uses the one or two options he has available to him to make sure he protects himself, because guys they can put on jimmies, little rubber hats, or they can get the snip. That's all guys have. That we have so few options where women have something like 13 or 15 of them. So I'm at the point now where I start getting frustrated and I start getting angry because women can get away with this over and over and over again. And their excuse is, well, the guy should have tried to make sure he had protection. But even when he does, a lot of times, and we have the story there, I think it was Drake of putting the hot sauce in his little man's hat so that women couldn't use, but they can use it. And if she does get herself in the motherly way that way, well, he's still on the hook. I have a couple stories here I want to read. And it just goes to show you the hypocrisy of this. And this is why, and again, if the guy says, well, she said she was on something and turns out she wasn't, and then the women will turn right around and say, well, the man didn't. He should have protected himself. But then when he does protect himself, she can scoop it out of the trash and get herself pregnant. All of it is the men's fault. Everything is the man's fault. But if a guy does it in the same way that women do, he can go to jail or at least get some pretty harsh penalties on him. And the double standard just drives me nuts. So I have this a couple of stories. I'm not going to read through them too heavily, but this is just another call that you guys really need to take care of yourselves, and you cannot believe a woman is taking care of it for you. This is from Kid Spot. My partner secretly got pregnant because she felt me slipping away. The woman revealed she'd stopped taking the pill 3 months before getting pregnant. Says Ryan has been with his partner Shelly for 2 years. They're young. He's 19 and she's 23. And as far as Ryan is concerned, not ready to be parents. But when Shelly felt Ryan was getting emotionally distant, she stopped taking her birth control and got pregnant. I confronted her and asked her, how has this happened? And after many arguments, she confessed she hasn't been using it for around 3 months and broke down crying, saying she wanted a baby so we would become closer. She feels like I'm slipping away from her, which is total BS. And now this dude at 19 years old is on the ropes for the next 18 years of his life. Like he doesn't get out of quote jail until he's almost 40. He was angry and upset. He says, I feel like my consent was taken away. Although the couple spoke about getting rid of it, Shelly said she wanted to keep the baby. He said, I don't want to be a father. I've told this many times, but she just ends up crying and making me feel guilty, and it's working. Shelly's parents are part of the conversation, telling Ryan to take responsibility for his actions. Ryan asked the community about his legal options. He said, am I just effed? Yeah, he's effed. Now the poll, is he still responsible for the kids? 61% said no. She tricked him and should be forced no, she tricked him and he should be forced to be a dad. And the other is he still responsibility? Yes, with birth control, there's still a risk of pregnancy. Now, you notice the first option is, yes, there's a risk, and he should still be responsible. The second one says, is he responsible for the baby? No, she tricked him and he should be forced to be a dad. You notice both outcomes are either way he should have to be a dad. When this is how everything is geared to where even 40% of people say, well, it's risky. Yeah, it's really risky, especially when she doesn't take it. And then, of course, the Reddit community started giving him advice, which I'm not going to get into. But I mean, you're boned. You're done. And my favorite response is, hey, if you're not ready to be a dad, you shouldn't be sleeping with her. Okay. Doesn't the same thing go with her? If she doesn't want to be, if she doesn't want a kid, maybe she shouldn't sleep with men. And then the whole having to get rid of young ones, the whole deletion problem goes away just like that. But that's never brought up. When women make the bad decisions and they decide to get rid of it, it's stunning and brave and beautiful. Round of applause. No one ever says, hey, you know something? If you didn't sleep with him, you wouldn't have had to make this decision. It's only a one-way street, and it gets me so furious. The same thing here. Here's another article I'll touch on. Help. I love this first part of this. Help. She's asking for help. I tricked my boyfriend into getting me pregnant. Help me, even though I'm the one that tricked him. Am I some kind of monster for getting pregnant on the sly? Like, this is a question you need to even ask. More than 13 years ago, I got pregnant at the time I was finishing school and just beginning my career. My boyfriend, quote, Ben, had been dating seriously for a few years. We talked about marriage and children, but hadn't decided on what that would be. He assumed the pregnancy was a birth control failure. I told other people that it was an unplanned but welcome surprise. I never told another person this, but it wasn't an accident at all. I just stopped taking the pills. And now 13 years later, she's like, oh, help me because I feel guilty. Help me get over my guilt. Am I a monster? Yeah, you're a monster. You've trapped a guy into being a dad or being at least financially responsible for a kid maybe he didn't want brought into this world. But what happens when a guy does it? This is from California. It makes stealthing illegal. Gavin Newsom signed Bill 453 into law, thus outlawing stealthing, which is slang term for a guy removing the protection during the bedroom fun without verbal consent. California's become the first state in the country to make it illegal, and I think they're continuing to push this. The new law makes it a civil offense for someone to remove it without their partner's consent. Therefore, the women are allowed to sue the men for damages, including punitive damages. It's just shy of making it a criminal offense, but they're pushing it to become a criminal offense. And I'm not going to read down through the whole thing, but they say while maximum penalties of doing this remain the same, individuals who are convicted of doing it can receive probation in lieu of jail or prison. That's with their wives. And they now are equating this as to him using force to do it. So if you quietly take it off, you can be found, and you may have to register as an offender, and you can be found criminally liable as if you took advantage of a woman, we'll say, but without force. Why can they come down like hammers on men and do this to their lives and perhaps ruin a man's life for the next 20 years at least, if not longer, if he wants to be part of the child's life? And what if he does want to be part of the child's life and the woman says no? He has no decision. He's got to pay. What if he wants the kid and the woman says, you know what, I've changed my mind, going to get rid of it? He doesn't have an opportunity to have the kid. Men at no point have decisions in this. So guys, the longer this goes on, the more this happens. You absolutely have to take this control in your own hands. Unless you're like me, who's gotten a snip. And then, I mean, if she ever says, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant, I'm like, oh, by the way, you cheated on me. Because I went back after having the snip done and got tested to make sure I didn't have any swimmers left. And they're like, not one, nothing, blank, nada, zilch. And I could go back after all the years to make sure there hasn't been anything that's changed, but I haven't felt the need to yet. Because I did go back and test 3 months after, and then I think 1 year after, and both times they were like, nah, you're fine. Like, there's nothing here. So unless you're at that level, don't make any assumptions. I don't care if it's with a girlfriend, a fiance, a wife, anything. And that's the worst part of that. What makes this the least fair to guys is that you're either in a place where you could get taken advantage of, or you have to admit you don't trust the person you're with. And a lot of guys say, no, I do trust her, and that's exactly how they get in the situation, and then the next 20 years of their lives are determined for them. And I see this and it makes my blood boil. And so, a little reminder, guys, don't leave your fate up to somebody else, because in many cases, whether she feels like it might be ending, or maybe she wants you're successful and she wants the child support, or she thinks you're just a great looking, tall, handsome guy and she wants the DNA from you, but she doesn't want you to be around for the kid being raised because she wants to then go get a moneymaker. Be aware of this stuff. It's happening more and more and more, and women can just get away with it. They can do whatever they want when it comes to this stuff. And as a guy, if you complained, it's going to be blamed on you. No matter what you do, it will always be blamed on you. Don't forget, coming up, I'm going to be hitting the road here in another day or two to go out to Tennessee to close on my land. So I'll schedule some of my videos to upload. I'll also be trying to do some videos on the road. Thumbnail won't look quite the same, and the quality may be a little bit lower, but I'll still try to find some fun stuff you guys can watch and I can talk about while I'm on the road. And for those of you on YouTube, make sure to join me over on betterbachelor.locals.com or Rumble, because that's where I do a dating profile of the day, because YouTube just quite frankly sucks.